IVM.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories, India's very own travel podcast, where each week we discuss the story of travelers in their own words and relive their experiences with you, our listeners. Hi guys, I'm your host Saif and welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories. Before we get on with today's episode, a quick update about an event where we met fellow podcasters. It was the second edition of the Bangalore Podcasters Meetup and it was hosted by the kind folks at Factor Daily. We had a great chance to have some wonderful conversations with fellow podcasters based out of Bangalore and learn from each other. We hope to have more of these meetups in the near future. There is a quick link in the show notes which shares a beautiful recap done by one of our fellow podcasters, Amar Vyas. So go check it out if you want to find out more about other podcasters based out of Bangalore. And about today's episode, we speak with a traveler and a blogger, Chandroma Ray, who blogs under the handle One Earth, Two Less. So sit back and buckle up as we find out where Chandroma is taking us to today. So with that introduction, I'd like to welcome Chandroma Ray, who blogs under the handle oneearth2less.com. Chandroma, thank you so much for being a part of the Musafir Stories and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Saif. My pleasure. My pleasure to be in the platform. Hello, everyone. I'm Chandroma from what they say to be the sweetest part of India, West Bengal, from the city of joy, Calcutta, but currently settled in Bangalore.
Chandroma, thank you so much. It's completely our pleasure to have you on and we're really excited and looking forward to this conversation. But before we get on with further details, the introduction that I gave about you is quite concise, Chandroma. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about who is Chandroma and also your blog. It has a very interesting name, One Earth, Two Less, right? Tell us a little bit more about you.
So, as I said, I'm from the sweetest part of India, Bengal, but currently settled in Bangalore. Now, I'm a corporate communication professional for the major part of the day, and doesn't matter how much I dislike, it does eat up a considerable part of my youthful evening as well. With whatever left of me, I dream and I travel. No, don't think I'm going to quote Lennon that says I'm a dreamer, I'm not the only one. That probably has become too cliched with all the dreamers quoting it wherever and whenever they can. I have my dreams spread across a multitude of things and no prizes for guessing. The most of my dreams are around traveling the world.
Lovely. It's great to hear that, Chandroma, and we are very, very excited too. It's great that you are handling, two very interesting professions. I don't know, I won't call travel a profession yet for you because it is a passion. It is something close to your heart that you love.
Absolutely.
But it's very, very commendable that in spite of your day job, you still continue to pursue and persist with these dreams and the passion you have for travel. Before we get on with the interview, a quick note to our listeners. You can go on and read more about Chandroma's travelogues, Chandroma's travel stories, and view a lot of beautiful pictures and read beautiful words by visiting oneearth2less.com. I got that right, Chandroma?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for the kind words.
They are beautiful, and we will link to the blog as well as other blog posts that Chandroma has written in the show notes section of the podcast. That way listeners will have a ready reckoner to go visit Chandroma's blog. Now, we have a little tradition at the Musafir Stories, Chandroma, that whenever we have a guest traveler come speak with us, we request them to take us and our listeners on a journey to a place, a journey to a destination, and share their experience, the entire experience of that trip from the very initial stages of the preparation and the research and the packing that goes into the trip, right through the journey to get to the destination and the things one indulges at the destination as well. Essentially, it's the A to Z of that place, of that itinerary. So with that in mind, where are you taking us and our listeners to today?
So I'm taking you to some offbeat corners of Ladakh. And when I say Ladakh, I know everybody would be thinking that it's on everyone's bucket list. Every second person I meet is planning a Ladakh vacation.
Yeah, especially those bullet riders, right? So that's why.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I'll quickly tell you, when I was planning my trip to Ladakh, I had found 1001 run-of-the-mill itinerary that was floating across the internet. And trust me, I'm a slow traveler. I'm a traveler who prefers to go to the off-the-beaten track.
Okay.
So I started doing my own research and curating my own itinerary, and really didn't want to just confine myself to Nubra and Pangong and do some of the war memorial and here and there.
Right.
So, I mean, I have lost count how many blogs I have gone through. I have lost count how many people I have bugged. Just randomly messaging on Facebook, randomly pinging on Insta, asking them about their experiences, their journeys and all of that. But then I did come up with quite a mixture of both, actually. It was mixture of both touristy and non-touristy places of a 16-day itinerary to Leh to Manali.
Okay.
But my highlights of the trip, which I'm going to tell you all the stories about, are these 4 places which I absolutely love. Is one is Alchi, the second one is the Moonland Lamayaru, the third is the last village of Ladakh, or if I may say, last village of India, which is Turtuk, and the village of Dha, which is one of the very, very few Aryan villages still existent in India.
Sure. Lovely, we're excited, and I think Ladakh is, as you rightly mentioned, one of the bucket list items of a lot of people, but we're glad that you got to, if I may, see the best of both worlds, right? You did see a lot of the touristy and 3 idiots type of places, as well as...
Yeah, absolutely. And trust me, Saif, I mean, you shouldn't miss the touristy stuff also. Pangong is hyped because it's so beautiful. I mean...
Sure.
I'm still having goosebumps when I still imagine of Pangong or a Somodori.
Right.
But I mean, it's the combination of both that makes travel beautiful, basically.
Absolutely. I don't mean to look down upon touristy places, because I openly confess that at the moment, I'm more of a tourist than a traveler. So, but again, it's a completely different experience compared to, say, something more offbeat, like say Turtuk or the village of Dha, as you mentioned. So I think we have covered some of the places you mentioned, like the Nubra Valley and Pangong and all of that in some of our previous episodes, and we eagerly look forward to seeing or hearing from you about the more offbeat places, right? So it's good, and we are excited. So without delving too much into other things at the moment, if I have to ask you, you said it was a 16-day trip. So in terms of preparation, apart from like doing a whole lot of research, curating your itinerary, right? What else went into the preparation?
Nothing much, actually. It was like an usual trip, though there was a lot of people giving me a lot of advices regarding the altitude of Leh. Right. Which I think everybody who goes to Leh has heard a lot about, that you need to take 1 day of rest and then only plan your thing and stuff like that. So to be very frank, when I was planning this trip, I had given my 80% time to curate the itinerary, and the rest 20%. 1 week before I had actually packed it.
Okay.
But when you're packing, you have to keep very few specific things in mind. One is you have to really focus on packing light. Why I'm telling that? Because I'm a heavy packer. I suck at packing light. But then I always feel I should pack something which I myself can carry it. I don't need people around to carry for me.
Yeah, it's true. I think, Chandroma, it's a really good thing that you decided to pack light as well, because especially in places where in high altitude places like this, right, Leh Ladakh and other places where extraneous factors like AMS and altitude sickness can play a part, it's best to carry light. That way you're not burdening yourself or other people as well during the trip, and then you're in control of yourself, because you don't have a lot of other things to worry about too. So I think it's a great bit of advice there as well. And just to revisit, you said you did this trip in the month of August, is that right?
Yeah, I chose the second half of August because one, it is the hottest month in Ladakh. Two, tourists die down and you can have Pangong to yourself, you can have Nubra to yourself, and you can have the rest of the Ladakh to yourself without tourists bothering you everywhere you go.
Awesome. I think
I'm being rude, but I like to travel where there's not too much tourists around me.
sure, and I completely hear you on that. Even though I think Ladakh is still one of the few places, relatively in relative terms, still the amount of tourists is lesser. But again, it has picked up so much over the past few years that you can still feel it. That there's so many tourists around, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably August and beginning September is actually the best time if you are looking for a Ladakh to yourself. I mean, with no obstructions whatsoever.
Okay, but overall, I think a good season or a good time to visit Ladakh sounds like it's between May and September, right?
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay, lovely. So now that we've covered most of the things in terms of the basics, right? Like curating the itinerary, preparing your bags, and getting ready in terms of like preparing yourself for the trip as well. Why don't we jump into the thick of things and you take us on this. I'm sure it was a trip of a lifetime for you, at least up until that point. I'm sure you have a few more coming up, but yeah, take us through this lovely trip you did, a lovely itinerary that you had, and tell us and our listeners what are some of the sights and the experiences you had during this trip.
I landed directly in Leh. So we planned to do a Srinagar to Leh to Manali, but with the conditions in Srinagar tensed during that time, we planned to directly land in Leh and then start going downward up until Kargil. So we spent a couple of days in Leh, then we went down up until Kargil, and then we halted in various villages on our way. So the first village I'll be speaking about is Alchi. Which is a sleepy little town. If you are a laid back traveler, if you're a slow traveler, I must say this is absolutely a stunning place for you to visit.
Okay, great. And tell us, give us a few more details.
So Alchi, ideally, that's what I said, if you're a slow traveler, ideally for my itinerary, I kept Alchi for one night, but after visiting there, I would suggest anybody who is visiting Alchi to just slow travel before the Nubras and the Pangong hits you. Just laze around in 2 days on the banks of Indus in Alchi and just do nothing. There are pretty cafes all around the villages. There are pretty places just to sit down and laze, have good food. Alchi is very good for food. And yeah, it's just about lazing around and just enjoying the beauty of the Indus, the sounds of Indus flowing by, and at the night you can have the entire galaxy to yourself with crystal clear skies. So that's what actually stole the show for me in Alchi.
Lovely.
Yeah, and also Alchi has a really famous monastery, which is one of the oldest monastery in Ladakh. And it's famous because it has a lot of Kashmiri influence in its paintings, unlike the rest of the monasteries in Ladakh.
Okay. When you say paintings, what are these paintings you're referring to, like wall paintings?
So, paints, it's all wall paintings around the wall, but most of it, sadly, is not being maintained, and like half of them are really in bad shape. But still, with whatever you have, you know the richness of the interminglance of both the Kashmiri influence and the Tibetan and the Buddhist influence and all of it. So, it's one of the probably the best monastery in Ladakh, which I have seen, but people don't talk about it much in because they mostly talk about the biscuits and the other monasteries which are much more famous because those are very well maintained. And but this is like there are like few people who's taking care of who are looking after it and all of that. But this monastery is really pretty, and this is just by the banks of Indus.
It should have been a lovely sight as well, right? Given that it's on the bank of the river Indus, and I believe this is from back from the 11th century, right? So it's quite an old monastery that way too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the oldest. Lamayaru and Alchi boasts of the oldest monasteries in Ladakh. So it's beautiful. As I said, it has lots of Muslim and Kashmiri influence as well, and that makes the art even more intricate. I'm a fan of Muslim architecture architecture and Muslim art. So I absolutely loved it. And it has a lot of Kashmiri influence for that matter, because you can see the difference when you visit other monasteries in Ladakh. I'm a layman. I don't understand art, but to my eyes also, I could starkly understand the difference and the richness of the architecture and the paintings the Alchi monastery held.
Lovely. So, Chandroma, you also briefly mentioned about the food of Alchi that kind of caught your attention, right? So, why don't you tell us a little bit more, elaborate a little bit more about how the food is and what is it that caught your attention?
So, before I say I'm a pure non-vegetarian, okay, can't survive when the food is veg. So, I know I'll have a lot of enemies and a lot of looks, but I'm a pure non-vegetarian. I eat everything that moves. So,
we're all friends here. We're all friends here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go on.
So, having said that, when I was making my trips to Ladakh, so everybody had warned me with this, that you get only veg food, chicken can't be boiled at the temperature, lambs is not available, and a whole lot of it. And I was like, chalo, theek hai, Ladakh dekhna hai, to I'll just survive it on veg food. That's the supreme sacrifice I'll have to do, surviving on veg food for 16 days. But interestingly, when I landed up in Alchi, at the beginning of the village, on your left-hand side, as you walk down, there is this pretty little cafe called the Alchi Cafe.
Okay.
And when you go up, there's this lady who runs the cafe who has been born and brought up in Alchi. Back then, Alchi was not open to tourists and all, but she stayed in Alchi for like about 40 years now, probably. So she runs this pretty cafe where you get to taste the yummiest of Ladakhi cuisine.
Okay.
So when I say Ladakhi cuisine, so the most famous Ladakhi cuisine is mokmoks, which back in the plains we call as momos.
Right.
So when I tell you mokmok, so again people used to say you just get veg momos. So but I tasted the yummiest of lamb mokmoks rather at the Alchi Cafe. So I had a couple of them, and I was thinking I should pack it up for the rest of my trip. but lamb mokmoks were really good. And there's one more interesting thing which I had there was khambir. Okay. Khambir is a locally fermented bread. And khambir is something you get all across Ladakh. It's a homegrown thing. You do it at home. They locally ferment it overnight, and then the next day they have it you can have it with whatever. But here at this Alchi Cafe, they had nicely stuffed it up with meatball, mayo, cheese, and fried eggs. So that like stole the show for me in Alchi. and there is one more thing as skew. So when I say skew is like a handmade cap-shaped pasta stew, which is like mixed with some mild sauce, and you can have it either with veggies or meat. So I of course had meat with that, and it was again one more amazing dish. So I mean, Alchi Cafe is one of the must-visit cafe when you're going to Ladakh probably. I mean, if you really want to taste authentic Ladakhi, because all across Leh, all across Ladakh, I have actually not tasted any original authentic Ladakhi food per se, except this place. This lady has a lot of knowledge when it comes to food. She makes everything by herself at that little cafe, and it is the taste, I must say, I'm still salivating.
Absolutely, and you have us salivating. I don't know how I'll get through the rest of the interview now you've brought this up at the very first pit stop. I think it, all in all, as I said earlier, Alchi does sound like a fabulous place for somebody who does prefer slow travel, right? Just laid back, you have the views, you have the sceneries, then you have the lovely art and the culture to lay back on in terms of the monastery there, and food, of course, lovely food, with a specimen being the Alchi Cafe. So I guess it would be apt for one to be Alchi while in Alchi and just slow travel.
That should be, yeah. I'll steal that line somewhere. That's the perfect thing you have said, Saif. Absolutely, you need to be Alchi at Alchi and just soak in the quietness of the place and do absolutely nothing. Sometimes in life, you need such places where you just go and do absolutely nothing.
Absolutely, and Alchi does seem to be the right spot. So now that you've spent some time here, where do you head on to from Alchi, Chandroma?
So from Alchi, we actually head to Lamayaru.
Okay.
So Lamayaru is actually on the way back from Alchi. It's about 107 kilometers from Leh.
Mm-hmm.
And you get frequent bus services as well from Leh, from Udhampur and Srinagar and all of that.
Okay. Maybe I should have asked you about your mode of transport as well at the beginning, right? Because, you are crisscrossing across the region. So how did you get about while doing the trip, while in Leh Ladakh?
Yeah, so actually we booked a SUV for the entire trip.
Okay.
We had a driver to ourselves for the entire trip.
Okay.
But for budget travelers, this might turn out to be an expensive option because we were just 3 people and we had to share a whole lot of amount of the thing was really huge.
Uh-huh.
But having said that, all these places which I'm talking about do have bus services, mostly once in a day or maximum twice in a day.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually travel by bus as well through the scenic NH1 and Leh Manali highway and all of that. And also you can just quickly rent out a Royal Enfield. Otherwise, everybody does that in Ladakh. So that's another cheap option probably to roam around these places.
Sure, lovely. Awesome. So now we said we're heading to Lamayaru, right? Tell us how different or how similar this was in terms of the experience compared to Alchi, Chandroma.
So Lamayaru is popularly known as the moonland of Ladakh.
Uh-huh.
So the moment you enter Lamayaru, you just see the topography, the entire view, how you see a village from a distance has completely changed. If you see, it's completely in ruins and the topography is exactly like that of a moon. And I'm not exaggerating a bit. It's exactly like a moon. And Lamayaru stands out with this uniqueness that's actually unseen anywhere else.
Lovely.
So,
yeah. I completely agree with you about the distinctive terrain and the topography, Chandroma, because I think one of the first times I came across Lamayaru and the moonscape or the moonland as they call it, right, was through some of our fellow bloggers, right? Sandeepa Chetan, they have some brilliant posts about Leh Ladakh and Lamayaru specifically.
Absolutely.
And that's where I discovered it.
Absolutely. I owe my thanks to both Sandeepa Chetan and Nilima Velangi.
Oh, okay.
I owe my Ladakh trip to them, a lot of it, because I have gone through their post almost 100 times in the last 2 years to plan my itinerary. So all my thanks to them.
Oh, small world indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately for me, I didn't actually keep a full day and a night to Lamayaru. We reached around 11:30 in the morning and we had the entire day to ourselves to explore Lamayaru, and around evening we were heading back to Leh. But I would tell my audience, if you love history, if you love ruins, you should give Lamayaru a day. You should. I think Lamayaru will look really more beautiful in the dawn, during the sunrise or so. I mean, when the entire village is sleeping. So the only thing to see in Lamayaru is, of course, the monastery if you are going to see something, quote unquote. But otherwise, it's just about strolling through the alleys, which will take you back in time.
Right, exactly. And also, as a quick mention, there is this Euro Cup Gyata, or I think something on those lines. There is a popular festival that happens. I'm not very sure. Maybe we can look it up and link it in the show notes. But there is a popular festival where the locals, they put on these huge masks, right? Colorful masks and everything, and perform during that festival. So this is also something that is unique to the place that Lamayaru is famous for. So I will definitely look that up and include the timing of that festival, right? Because that is one of the highlights of Lamayaru as well. It is popular for that festival too. So
and as far as I remember, if I'm not wrong, it's in the peak season. It happens in summers in Ladakh. So not most of the Ladakhi festivals happens around winters. But this is one of the festivals, if I'm not wrong, it happens during the summers when it's peak season. So I think a lot of tourists, if they're interested in seeing such wonderful festivals, can actually go and visit during that time.
Absolutely, absolutely. We will include more information about that in the show notes section. But it sounds like an adventurous day you've had at Lamayaru. After this, where was your next pit stop, Chandroma?
So I'll just create a bit of suspense around it. How many times have you tried to explore something off the beaten track and ended up in a no man's land, which the Indian map marks as a restricted zone, a place which is totally cut off from civilization. Electricity here comes for about an hour, and just when you enter the village, the local stares at you that you have entered a forbidden zone and you are not absolutely welcome. And the houses, to say the least, are relics. It's all broken, tattered. They are relics. And to top it all, we didn't have a booking there. And we reached around 5 p.m. after all the detours and tours and all that. We reached around 5 p.m. and we had no place to stay. So I had landed up in the village of Dha in such a scenario one fine evening when I tried to curate my offbeat itinerary. I didn't really have something like this in mind, but I did end up like this.
Yeah, I think it sounds like, I won't say surprised, but yeah, there's a little bit of pressure here, right? So how did it go after this?
So actually to start off, I'll just quickly say where Dha is. So it's not something Google also shows up. I mean, you really have to go deep into to dig about this place.
Okay.
So it's about 180 kilometers from Leh. On the Leh-Manali highway, there's this place called Khalse, which is about 90 kilometers from Leh, and the road splits into two here. One heads towards Kargil and the other goes towards Batalik. And from there, you have to drive another 80 kilometers, and there is a group of about 5 to 6 villages of Dropas. They are these descendants of Aryans who actually stay in these cluster of villages.
Right.
And there are like 6 villages. So I know a couple of them. So there's this village of Hanu, there's this village of Garkon, and a few other. And the last of this is the village of Dha, which you have to actually climb 15 minutes uphill to reach. The car doesn't go there, so the car has to be parked down, and then you go up to uphill climb and reach the village. Car actually is parked right at the entrance, and then you walk up. And when you reach there, it's absolutely cut off, Seth. 2 huge mountains, and there's this little village in between. And if something happens to you, God forbid, there's absolutely nothing you can do sitting there.
Oh my God.
So
I think when you prayed really hard for an offbeat destination with God, I think he probably said, okay, go to Dha.
Go to Dha, exactly. That's how it sounds. So even our driver knew Ladakhi. So the first time we saw our most confident driver, a little confused and didn't know what to do. And he said, ki, Madam, ye jagah aapko kahan se mila? Because I was all around going like, I want to go to that place, this place. So you're like, ye jagah aapko kahan se mila? Ye to maine bhi nahi suna iske bare mein.
Yeah, I do agree on the part where you said they're descendants of Aryans, right? I have read about the people of the village are believed to be the descendants of Alexander the Great, right? When he made that first attempt to make a conquest of this place, the Indus Valley, right? I think that's when this dates back. It also gives me, it throws back some memories about this other place we had covered. It was called, I think, the village of Malana, right? It is one of the infamous villages, as you said, about the Aryan population and the locals not being very welcoming, as you rightly put it, right? So yeah, how was the experience? You landed there, it's like getting dark, close to dark, and you hike 15 minutes up to get to the village. Like, what transpired after this? Now I'm curious.
Yeah, then actually, to top it all, we didn't have a confirmed booking because our driver and the lady who helped us book a few places across Ladakh, she was very confident that in Ladakh, wherever you go, you get homestays, or at least if you knock a door, people are very welcoming. So we were with the confidence. Actually, in Alchi also it happened the same, and there are like in Nubra also it happened the same. But when it came to Dha, when our driver interacted with the local people, they were like there is no chance where you can stay with the locals. They were not at all welcoming. They were like, why have you come here? That was then day. So I was like, we should spend just about a night and then just head tomorrow morning. I mean, I just want to leave this place. So that was my first feeling when I entered the village of Dha. Mostly it attracts foreign tourists, and it has been open to tourists only in 2010. So when we landed there, we were trying to figure out to book a place, and so somebody said you have to walk around another 2 kilometers downhill to find a homestays.
Okay.
Then our driver started speaking in the local language and all. So this person said there is this small hotel which takes about like 500 rupees a night per head, and they'll give you basic food, and it's at the entrance of the village. Somehow we managed for the night, but finding that was really a task. But we did find this out about within 1 hour, 1.5 hours we got settled. And then we started exploring, I mean, at least walking around the village of Dha.
It does seem like a little bit of an adventure, and an adventure of a different kind. And I think it is experiences like this when you kind of appreciate places like Alchi Cafe and the village of Alchi.
Yeah,
more,
absolutely.
Right?
yeah. I was thinking, I wish I could go back and stay at Alchi.
Exactly. So you just
Mm.
spent the night there, and did you have anything more planned for the next day?
No, I didn't. But that day there was something interesting that had happened.
Okay.
So we took a little tour around the village because we really found out there was not much we could do in that village. There was no touristy things which people see. So we walked up, and we found this little school also, and we found a few children playing. And those were the only people who talked with us and who actually took us around the village and to those unknown corners of the village of Dha. And that was a really good evening spent with the kids. So when I said that the village of Dha was completely cut out of civilization, but when I spoke with the kids, they do know about Shah Rukh, they do know about Amir Khan's latest movie, and they are updated about everything, with only 2 hours of electricity and 2 hours of TV coming to their room. So
interesting.
yeah, so it's like it was like not that they were totally cut off, but yes, they didn't have a lot of ideas. Also, they didn't have internet and they don't have phone connections and all of that. Still, they know how to enjoy in their own little way. And they took, and one of the secret corners, this is something particularly I want to mention, one of the secret corners they took us to was a museum.
Wow, okay.
So when you hear museum, you say, wow, museum and all of that. So we also had that conventional museum thing in our mind.
Right.
So when they said, ki, museum chalna hai, to I said, yeah, okay, sure, why not? So we followed them. That road was another haunting road. It was totally dark. Three of us were telling even if people murdered us here, nobody on the world could have come to know or come find us. It was like so deep, so dark, alleys and all. And finally, we landed up in a small, dark room, which is about 100 square, not even 100 square feet. It's about 50 square feet. It had all the oldest of utensils, oldest of dresses, oldest of animal skins hung on the walls. And that room didn't have a light. All we had was a phone flashlight. So it's so scary. And the lady who was showing us was friendly, but she looked scary. I mean, you will only know if I can show you her picture, but she looked scary. Not that she was rude to us, but she looked scary. But so that was one of the experiences we had.
This is definitely something you cannot curate, right? This has to happen by chance.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't curate this. Absolutely,
especially
it has
that
to have
dingy little museum and kind of artifacts it had. It's very different from a conventional
and
museum.
it was actually a little hush-hush also. When I say it was a little museum, it was a little hush-hush. So everybody was like, don't say anybody that we have taken you to this museum and all of that. But it was a room that was filled with a lot of secrets.
Yeah, exactly. And it does sound like, I mean, it's an interesting experience, no doubt, but a spine-chilling one as well, given that the whole build-up to this whole experience, right? Like, we got there and the kind of looks you were getting. And even if I'm not wrong, I think even features-wise, the people, they look a little different, right? They have this Indo-Aryan look.
Indo-Aryan look.
Right?
Yeah, Indo-Aryan. They are very beautiful. Yeah. completely unlike Ladakh. They absolutely does not look like Ladakh.
Exactly. So yeah, as I was saying earlier, I think this is something that you cannot curate as much as you try. You can probably not curate this.
Absolutely.
I think I can distinctly feel all through your journey, beginning right from Alchi to Lamayaru and even Dha until now. It has been different experiences, one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely different experiences. And to tell you the truth, the village of Dha, the very next morning, we made sure we left the place by 7 a.m. to head back to Leh.
Okay.
So that was my little experience in Dha. But when I now look back, it was totally worth it. But back then, probably that was something I didn't want. But now I have stories for a lifetime.
Awesome. So now that you've gotten away from Dha, I hope you got a little bit of a reprieve in terms of seeing friendly faces again. So where was your next stop?
So we came back and we went to Leh, and then we had done the Nubra circuit.
Okay.
And we headed back to Pangong, and then we headed back to Manali. But in the Nubra circuit is where my next destination is, the last village of India, which is the Turtuk village.
Ah, right. Yes. Go on.
So the Turtuk village is basically, it's about 220 kilometers from Leh, and about 60 to 70 kilometers from the very known Diskit Monastery, which is in Nubra, near the Hundar sand dunes and all of that. Mm-hmm. So from there, it's about another 60 kilometers drive along the river Shayok. Right. So that's another pretty drive with the clearest turquoise blue waters of the Himalayas. Turtuk again has a very interesting history. I don't know if you know. So Turtuk, when India gained independence, Turtuk was in Pakistan.
Right.
So in 1971, when the war happened, then Turtuk became a part of India.
Correct.
So the people of Turtuk, when you just visit them, they speak a very interesting language called as the Balti language. Mm-hmm. Balti is a mixture of the Persian and the old Tibetan language. Mm-hmm. These people again different from the Ladakhis. They really don't look like the Ladakhis. They have those typical Pakistani features, and Turtuk is one of the very beautiful places of the Ladakh region, which hardly people visit, probably due to the permits, because you need to have a lot of permits where if you want to go beyond Hundar.
Absolutely, and I do completely agree with your earlier comments about it being like very scenic, right? Right from the beautiful colors of the river Shayok, and even there's a lot more greenery when you compare it to some of the other places in Ladakh you've seen, right? So that way, also it's completely new leaf, if I may call, in the region. But along with that, as you said, there is also very characteristic Muslim influence on this region, right? When compared to
it's primarily a Muslim region. I mean, there are very few Ladakhis because, as I said, I mean, it was part of Pakistan till 1971.
Exactly.
And now it's in India, which is like filled with, again, there's a lot of checkposts of Indian armies and all of that. So when you talk to people, you get this feeling that they are fighting for an identity. I mean, so their father was a Pakistani, they are an Indian. So I can very well understand the dilemma which probably the people go through.
Sure.
So you can actually feel this when you're talking to them. But having said that, I mean, the people are very welcoming. Mm-hmm. They'll speak to you, they'll talk to you, they'll take you around the village, they'll tell you about their sons, grandsons and all of that, and all of the interesting histories and the beautiful place. So
Right. And if I'm to believe, I think it is only in around 2009, 2010 that this was opened up for tourists, right? Given the location, right? Location, right? So again, as I said, I should appreciate the fact that you have put the effort to curate a trip, and it really shows in terms of the experiences as well as the sights and the sceneries as well of the terrain, right? How different they are from place to place, right? From Alchi to Lamayaru to Dha and now Turtuk. I think that's what makes this trip, I think, so much more enjoyable given the different kinds of experience. It hasn't been like only the Tibetan culture and the influence that you've experienced, or only the Muslim influence and culture you've experienced.
Not. Exactly. It was like an arena of things I experienced in my trip. I mean, that's all I can say. Google paints a completely different picture of Ladakh, which of course is one of the very important part of Ladakh.
Sure.
But having said that, this is as much of Ladakh as the other parts are.
Absolutely.
So one must visit when they are planning their trip.
Absolutely. I'm sure you had a wonderful time there, and we had a lovely time talking to you about this. So, Chandroma, before we let you go, I'd like to thank you very, very much for taking us down this path that is less trodden, right? It's offbeat. It's as you said, said it's
Yeah,
not
it's
the
offbeat.
Ladakh that Google paints. So, thank you so much for giving us that view of this really gem of a place. Right from the like the terrain to the mountains to the valleys to the people there, and of course the food. How can we forget Alchi Cafe, right?
Yeah, you shouldn't. So yeah, thank you, Seth, for giving me the opportunity, and thank you. I really, really enjoyed talking about all these places, and these are actually places very, very close to my heart. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Well, thank you. We are grateful that you could come and share your experiences here and share that little bit of joy with us and our listeners too. Thank you, Chandroma. That was yet another great episode of the Musafir Stories. If you guys like the show, please subscribe to us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Audioboom, Savan, Pocket Casts, Castbox, Stitcher, or any other podcasting app available on iOS or Android. Please do leave us a review on iTunes. It goes a long way in the show's discoverability. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We go by the handle The Musafir Stories. Or, if it suits you, you could email us at themusafirstories@gmail.com or visit our website at www.themusafirstories.com for more information. All of these links will be made available in the show notes section of each episode. So here's to more traveling, sharing, and inspiring. Stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, happy travels and goodbye.